This is David Stark from WatcherPass.com, your website for movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Today I'm joined by Fiona Whitelaw, who wrote, starred in, and associate produced Acceptable Damage. Acceptable Damage is an award-winning film. It won the Best Screenwriting Award at the 2019 Idlewild Film Festival, and Fiona earned a nomination for Best Supporting Actress at that same festival. We're going to talk to Fiona in just a second, but first let's check out that trailer.
Full of pain and hatred. Sometimes you just wanna take gasoline, spread it all around your world and watch it burn, burn. More fire. More fire, more fire. More fire, more fire.
Katy has Aspergic.
Listen. More fire. More fire, more fire.
Where are you going, son?
More fire, more fire.
Go on.
More fire.
If you came round when I dial 101, maybe it'd be different.
I just want you to leave me alone.
I feel like things are going to be different soon.
Hello, Fiona. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello.
Hi.
Doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yeah, I'm okay.
Awesome. Are you joining from the UK?
That's right, from the UK.
International interview. Exciting times.
International interview. Whereabouts are you?
Washington, D.C. area.
Uh-huh.
Just across the, is it the pond? Is that what they say?
Just across the pond. That is exactly what we say.
Perfect.
Yeah, last time I had one of these interviews last week, and it was somebody in North Carolina.
Oh, cool. Perfect. So basically East Coast. Maybe the next one we'll go Midwest, and we'll just kind of work our way across.
Exactly. Why not?
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Fiona Whitelaw. She's the writer, star, and associate producer of Acceptable Damage, the award-winning movie Acceptable Damage. It won the best screenplay at the 2019 Idlewild Film Festival, and you also got a nomination for Best Supporting Actress, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I'll just jump right into the questions. And this film seemed like a very personal story. It kind of deals with mental issues and drama and some very kind of raw emotional aspects. So, I guess I saw in the notes that there was a story, there was some bullying story in the UK that kind of inspired it, but was there anything else that you drew from for this story? It seems like the facts differ a little bit in the movie versus the newspaper story.
Yeah. At the time, I was doing a lot of arts work with young people who were part of the neurodivergent community. So I was working with young people with autism and Asperger's and probably for about 10 years. So
Oh, wow.
it's a community that I know really well. And then when I first started to develop the story, that was never intended to be a depiction of anything that had happened in the news. It was always intended to be a fictional story, but about the way people are othered and treated differently. And early on in that process, when I was developing the story, I had a big search for the actress to play the other leading role of the daughter, Katy, and eventually we found Elinor Machen-Fortune, who is autistic herself, and so her experience as well shaped the story.
Oh, that is so interesting. Because you have such a strong background in it, but then to have an actress or an actor who also has the kind of condition that you're depicting. Did she have inputs into the script and change some things around based on how her life or interactions had been? Did that kind of inform the script, or did she just kind of...
I mean, it didn't inform the through line of the story, but very much the nuance of how we were telling the story of this particular character who is autistic. I mean, obviously when we've been screening the movie, lots of people are, you know, why are you telling this particular story about bullying? And sadly, those kinds of stories are still apparent in the media, both in the US and the UK and in other parts around the world. So working with Elinor just enabled us to really, if you like, portray somebody who's autistic with that truthfulness, you know, because she could always say, well, I don't think this is going to work, or that's not accurate, or whatever. And that was very, very important to me. I think representation on screen is hugely important.
Yeah, no, definitely, no doubt. I mean, there's no better way to kind of tell the story than to have people that have lived that experience.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so that's awesome. That's really, you know, I guess fortunate. Were you trying to find an actor that kind of had the same background, or did it just kind of fall in your lap? Okay.
Absolutely, very much so. Yes, it was a very deliberate intention, both to have Elinor or an actress who was autistic play that role, but also to have good representation throughout the whole cast of the film. We have 50-50 male and female, and we have actors from many different cultural backgrounds in the film, both in authority figures and not, and all of those things were very important to me.
I was going to ask about the cast later, but we can just go right into it. Yeah, the cast was amazingly diverse. I mean, you know, when you have a small film, an indie film like this, sometimes you're kind of limited in who you can get. But this, you know, like you said, this cast had 50-50 women. It had, you know, diverse backgrounds, and those diverse backgrounds had major roles and speaking roles. So, you know, I commend you for that. It's something that, you know, I agree with you. It's something that kind of has to be part of every film. You know, when you're building out your cast, you kind of have to think about who's going to watch it and make it an accurate representation of the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the way I work. It's always very intentional. That's the road I intend to go down right from the start. And sometimes that means that you're basically pushing to make that be a real thing, to make that balance, you know. Like, for example, the actor Fraser Ayres, who plays the politician, has done quite a lot of work in the US and a major soap in the UK, Coronation Street. And it was very, very, you've got all this negotiating around schedules to do in order to get that one actor for that very small window in their diary that they can come and shoot those scenes.
Yeah, that must have been tough to juggle, especially if you're trying
That's
to
the same with most filmmaking, isn't it? It's always a very complicated web getting everyone's availability to match up with the availability of the locations, and it's
I don't know how you all do it.
I have great people on my team who are working on that.
Awesome. I don't know how you all do it, because, you know, telling a story like that, it's tough to tell the story, but then to film it out of order, because based on people's schedules and whatnot, that
Yes.
is a tough job.
Yeah, it is.
So you mentioned that did you find Elinor first? Was she the first member of the cast, and then you kind of built out from
Yeah,
her?
she was. Yeah.
Awesome. So you know, I guess, did you have the rest of the people in mind as their characters, or did you just kind of take whoever came, you know, who was the most talented, or, you know, maybe, you know, kind of represented someone that you were trying to showcase in this film?
A little bit of both. I mean, there was some changing around, and, you know, there was one particular actor that I wanted for one of the roles, and then that didn't work, and then you're looking around, but still with that specificity of who you want in terms of balancing the cast. Yeah.
And so let's go into some of the depictions of sorry, I call it mental illness. What did you call it? What is the more proper term
it's
for?
A learning disability.
Learning disability.
Nowadays,
Okay.
A lot of people will say, certainly in the UK, they will describe this community as neurodivergent. So
Neurodivergent.
their
I
brain,
like that term.
their
brain just
just
works differently. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like that term. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the depictions of neurodivergence. You know, not a lot. I don't want to spoil it, but early on in the film, there's this scene where you know, I guess Fiona is kind of looking into her own mind, and kind of it's depicted as this person or entity trying to push through some sort of
Oh,
sheet or
Katy, you
wall.
mean.
Oh,
Katy.
Katie, yeah, sorry, Katie.
That's all
Um,
right.
and it's depicted as kind of a person, a person or entity trying to push through this
Mhm.
wall that's kind of giving but not. I mean,
Yeah.
is that something that was just made to depict what was she was going through, or is that something that people who have neurodivergence kind of can see, or is that how they describe kind of some of the aspects of how they interact with people, or don't understand how to interact with
I mean,
people?
clearly, I wouldn't be, as a person who isn't on the autistic spectrum, I wouldn't wouldn't be comfortable to answer that question from that point of view.
Hmm.
But in terms of making our film, Elinor had talked in detail with the director, Lavinia, Simina, about what it was like to have a meltdown, and those feelings of getting too close or being intimate and then backing off. And then Lavinia had this idea of using this membrane as a
Hmm.
kind of image to depict those feelings.
Interesting. Yeah, that's again, that's fantastic that you got Elinor to play this, because it sounds like she had a ton of contribution. Um, and going to the director, I noticed that she also had a role in the film. Is that was that always the case, or did that just kind of work out that maybe she had a
It
spot that
wasn't
she thought?
always the case, but I was keen to. I mean, Lavinia's been working mainly as a director for quite some time, but she is an actor as well, and I was quite keen for her to play the detective for two reasons, really. I mean, one is that she's a good actor, and I thought that would be an interesting role for her. She's very good at playing strong characters. And also, even in terms of back again into my thing about representation, there are lots of different people who make up the Metropolitan Police, in the UK, from all kinds of backgrounds, from European backgrounds. And so I wanted to reflect that diversity that exists in an institution like the police.
And it was a very effective scene also, because she's kind of in a situation where someone might get intimidated based on the physical differences, and she held her own, and kind of came off as strong-willed. So I think that was a good choice.
Yeah, thank you.
So as I mentioned, you wore a lot of hats in this film. You're the writer, star, and associate producer. How did you kind of balance those different roles, or is it kind of a temporal thing? Like, you write it, then you hand it off to the director, and then you become the star, and then after that, kind of put on your associate producer hat. How did you kind of balance the
It's very
different roles?
much compartmentalizing in that sense. Once I gave the script over to Lavinia, she was in charge of her interpretation of it and her vision of it. And then the same when all the footage went to the editor, it was then his vision of what we had shot and how he felt the story would work best.
Mhm.
And certainly when I'm an actor, I often write things that I'm not acting in, and when you are acting in something that you've written, you just need to be very disciplined about, when you're on set, that's what you're there to do. Although I still had some production tasks, it's just, it's just about being very disciplined. But in terms of the line production, I had a very very able producer, and a Teglas, who organised most of the mechanics of the shoot, and ran all of that. So at that point, I wasn't doing as much. And then once we'd passed post-production, that's when I kind of got back on the producing horse with my distributor. And then, like now, where I'm I'm promoting the movie, and I'm doing interviews, and all of the stuff that happens after you've made the film. Yeah.
And going to your role in the film, I'm not going to talk a lot about it, because people should watch the film and kind of see your character. But you let out some very primal screams a couple times in this film.
Yeah.
You know, that was, where did that come from? Is it just, you know, I assume it's just your acting, but it seems so raw.
Yeah.
It was such a
Very,
strong point.
it's a very chilling moment, but I think it's that thing of, obviously the story is very, very specific, but also there's that universality in the sense of when someone is a parent, and a mother in particular, and something wrong is happening to their child, they become like a lioness almost, you know. They have this, it's almost like an animal instinct to want to protect and keep them from danger. But the actual physical moment of that was, again, that was a suggestion from the director. She's very good at giving very detailed character notes in the moment, and asking you to just go with things.
And it feels like something that people can definitely relate to if you're having an experience like that, you know, that is a very human reaction.
Yeah.
Elinor, or sorry, Katy in the film is an aspiring singer, and there's a scene when Elinor does sing. Is that, she also do those vocals as well, or is that?
He absolutely did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another reason why she got cast in the first place. So she's also a singer and songwriter, and she has a beautiful voice. And actually, for that scene, we didn't even have to go into the studio to record it afterwards. We had a really good sound person, and we recorded it in the kind of venue that she would have been performing in.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
He was able to put the sound from the venue into his sound recording equipment. So that is actually a live take of her singing, which gives it that real flavor.
Yeah, it's too full. That makes it authentic, and it also means that you don't have to go back and try to recreate it, which I imagine is a ton of work.
And that's really wonderful, because obviously that doesn't always work, you know.
Yeah, and I love that she was the singer, because, you know, you see that in some films recently, you've got like an actor who then kind of also has a singing talent. I guess it's just, you know, multi-talented people can do these kinds of roles.
Yeah.
But that is awesome. You know, you also mentioned that this film originally started as kind of a fictionalized drama, and then you kind of saw it in the news. You know, I guess it seems like it just, bullying kind of ebbs and flows, but it still stays in the news, and especially in these times, it seems like it comes up often. Is that, I mean, it's an unfortunate aspect, but it's also really kind of great that this film is out there so people can kind of see, you know, the effect of bullying and how it kind of affects people that maybe not necessarily show it, right? You wouldn't think that Fiona would be someone who would be bullied, and then you kind of see the behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, I think even fairly recently there was a case in the US where an autistic young man had been arrested by the police, and they treated him rather badly. And obviously I'm really sad that this kind of thing still happens. But one of the motivations behind writing the film was to illustrate people's lack of understanding and lack of awareness of people on the autistic spectrum, and often officials, teachers, law enforcement, medical professionals, often they have a lack of understanding about autism and neurodivergence, and they don't approach people in the right way. And so I think it's really important to highlight that, because those things still happen.
Definitely, especially now when maybe people are, you know, stuck at home and kind of have a lot on their plates. It's important to kind of think about your own mental health, even if you're not neurodivergent. It's an important theme to kind of have out there so people can, you know, be comfortable with it.
Yeah, there has been quite a lot of reporting about how lockdown and coronavirus have been affecting people, and particularly young people with autism, you know, slightly differently. I mean, obviously all of us respond in different ways when we're put under this particularly unusual pressure that we've all been under.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like an interesting film for a next project, to kind of document the effect of lockdown on you know, neurodivergent people.
I'm sure that there are some amazing documentary filmmakers out there working on these things. I'm sure there are.
Definitely. You know, another theme that I thought was interesting in this film was kind of you know, it's focused on the teens, but it's not really a teen problem. It's a human problem. This kind of individual, you know, person, you know, your individual persona, your individual character, your character when you're alone or with a small group versus this like group think when
Yeah.
maybe some decisions can happen that you might not agree with, and that was
Yeah.
highlighted multiple times in this film. And is that, you know, that seems like a second theme in this movie. Is that something that you also kind of wanted to focus on with the bullying aspects and all of that?
Yeah, well, it's very much the case that in that group of young people, which you can call a gang, it just depends how you want to express that, there a lot of actions happen in relation to their interrelationships within that setting, and jealousies between each other, and you know, clearly the character of Rabbit in some ways is acting out because of his father's lack of parenting, and it's all of those complexities that anybody can relate to. As you say, they're all very human problems, and people do respond differently when they're in a group, don't they? Yep. Often in ways that they get carried away, or they feel led into behaving in a certain way without thinking about the consequences.
Yep, definitely. So that's another important aspect of this film. I just have a couple more questions. I know, you know, I don't want to take up too much of your time. There was I'm a big soccer fan, and there was one scene where you I assume a made up character, Haji, who is you know, better than Ronaldo and Messi. Is that a made up soccer player, and who is your, you know, next Ronaldo or Messi?
I am not very knowledgeable about football, and I believe Haji is a Romanian footballer, actually.
Oh. Is he going to be the next Ballon d'Or, you know, player?
I'm not the person to ask. I'm woefully ignorant about soccer.
Okay. Well, I always get excited interviewing someone from the UK because I assume that I can at least talk a little bit about soccer with them, or football.
Yeah.
So, you know, this film is out. It's available digitally. It's screened at some film festivals, and now it's out in a wider release. So, you know, what is next for you? What's your next project? Is it acting, writing, something else?
Well, I'm always busy with a number of things. I have I'm at the treatment stage for my next film, which is a story about women in the UK in 1984-85. In the middle of a miners' strike, they became very empowered and politicized. So there's that. And as an actor, I've just worked on the new film by Darren Rapier, who has been an EastEnders writer and various different things in the UK. And it's set in a teenage mental health facility. So that will be an interesting piece, but that's only just been filmed. So nobody's seen it yet. It's in the edit.
Well, I'm excited to see it. It sounds like, you know, all of your products are both interesting and socially important. So, you know, thank you so much for doing that and doing that work, because these are very important messages that people kind of, you know, need to be able to see and digest, and, you know, especially now watching, you know, in the comfort of their homes, and kind of think about and you know, grow their own experiences that way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for your time and for talking to me about Acceptable Damage. It's oh wait, actually one more question. Sorry, yeah. I meant to ask. So Acceptable Damage, I you know, I kind of think I know what the you know, the inspiration for the title was, but, you know, is there something specific that you used for that title? I don't think it was mentioned in the film. So no. Where did you kind of come up with that?
I think titles are very important. And the film the piece had another title for a long time, and then it changed. But essentially, it's a kind of comparison between when we're in a war situation. They talk about collateral damage, and that means civilians just being killed, and they're spoken of in that rather unpleasant, as if they almost don't exist, kind of dehumanizing. Mm-hmm. And I think when people are not looked after by society, it's almost like their loss is acceptable damage, whereas, of course, it is not acceptable.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely. That's a very appropriate title. I have to ask. I interview a lot of indie filmmakers. Does it also help that the acceptable damage starts with an A? Because I've heard that you want to be higher up
You
on the
know,
list.
that never occurred to me, but it is a really good. It's a really good thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You're kind of killing two birds
Now
with one
I'm
stone.
thinking, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining me. And the film is Acceptable Damage. It's available digitally, so you can, rent it, buy it, watch it at home. And this is Fiona Whitelaw. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks
care.
a lot.
All right,
Bye.
bye. That was Fiona Whitelaw from Acceptable Damage. It's available digitally through Evolution Films UK on pretty much all major digital distributors. If you like this interview, please feel free to like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot and make sure that our new videos go straight to you. And as always, please go to watcherpass.com for all your movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Thank you.